Welcome everybody to the first Between the Lions podcast for 2022. Today I have not one but two guests for you. Glenys Neeham, who is the chairman of the Australian Lions Hearing Dog Foundation for District 201B5, and Nick Liemandt, who has been a trainer at the Australian Lions Hearing Dog Foundation since 2018. We had a really fabulous discussion, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I did. So, Nick, would you like to tell us a little bit about the Lions organisation and how the clubs fit within that organisation?
So we started back in 1980 when two Lions went over and visited the Hearing Dog Training Centre in Colorado in America. And they saw what they were doing there and thought it was a fantastic idea and saw a need for it here in Australia. So they brought a trainer back with them, and then they set up the program as it is today on the same block of land that we're in here in Adelaide Hills. Since 1980, we've placed over 650 dogs across Australia. Now, we're governed by a board of lions here, and we've got a lion in each district across Australia, a coordinator, and they're in charge of each sort of state there.
So, Nick, what I find really fascinating is when I was looking up on your website, the breed of dogs that you have for Lions hearing dogs. It doesn't seem like the sight dogs, which tend to all be Labradors or whatever. They're just every type of breed on your website. Can you tell us what you look for in a dog?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we always say there's no two hearing dogs that look alike. We've always gone down to pounds and shelters and sourced dogs through there since the foundation, really. And it's been a fantastic giving dogs a second chance, and such a great role to put them in as well. So we still go down and source dogs from pounds where we can, but in the last couple of years, it's getting harder and harder to source the right type of dog that we're looking for. We've started up a puppy program here about 3 years ago, and where we're purchasing puppies from reputable breeders such as Labradoodles, Tenterfield Terriers, and then we're placing them into foster care until they're 10 months of age, and then they come into training ready to go. But the type of dog that we're looking for it's really the food motivation. The dog's got to love food because all the training that we do here is with food. So as long as they love food, they've got a place here for sure, and that they'll love it.
That means pugs must be quite good.
Yeah, we've actually had a couple of pugs. I've had one in the last year, and another trainer here has also had one. And they're two of our favourite dogs, honestly, probably.
Nick, can you tell me a little bit about what goes into training a Lions hearing dog?
So we break that down into two sections. So we've got the public access side, and we've also got the sounds within the home. So the sounds within the home, we train the dogs to respond up to 10 household sounds that we may take for granted ourselves, such as like a door knock, a phone ringing, a baby crying. So how the dog works is they'll hear the sound and they'll run to the sound to locate it and confirm where it is. And the second stage, they'll come back and physically touch their recipient. Depending on how big the dog is, it'll be either 1 or 2 paws. And then lastly, they'll lead their recipient back to the sound, sit there and let them know this is the sound that's going off. And then the public access side, so we're training the dogs to basically go everywhere with their recipient. So they've got the same public access rights as guide dogs for the blind. So they'll go into the shops, on public transport, to work with you, all of that, they'll go with their recipient. So we train the dogs to be able to cope with that sort of thing through socialization. And
that must be very stressful for the dogs, Nick.
The dogs love it. I mean, they get to go places a normal dog doesn't get to go. I think I think it's awesome. They get to see another whole side of the world, basically.
Can you tell me how much does it actually cost to train a dog?
So it costs us $37,000 to train each dog. So it takes anywhere from 6 to 8 months to train each dog. And once they're ready for delivery, they go out free of charge to their deaf or hard of hearing recipient. And
Glenys, turning to you, could you just explain what your role is all about in the Lions Hearing Dog program?
Yeah, certainly, Megan. As Nick said, Lions clubs internationally are divided right down to a district level, and then to a club level. So within every district, and for example, in Victoria, where I live, our district ranges from Shepparton and Tatura up near the Murray, Alexandra, all the way down through to Sandringham and Beaumaris on the Bay. So within each district, they have a spokesperson or a chairperson for the hearing dogs, and that's my function. So my business is to get out and about in the community and promote the project, because funnily enough, it's not anything like as widely known as the seeing eye dogs, because it's just not funded that way. So my job is to get out and about to Lions clubs and anywhere in the community, Probus clubs, any group that wants a speaker, and everyone does want a guest speaker, to promote the project so that people learn about the Hearing Dog Project, the value of it, and how to go about applying for a dog. So I fill all those roles. Obviously not during COVID. It was a very lean time. Well, I did a few Zooms actually, but that's what I do. And before COVID and starting again now, I'm out and about a handful of times each month in the daytime or in the evening, going out and promoting the project within the community.
Thanks, Glenys. And I'm going to switch back to you, Nick. I just want to know, not every dog makes the cut on that training. That training is quite intense. What happens to the dogs that don't make the cut?
Yeah, so the dogs that don't quite make it, there might be that they might be too timid out and about when with their owner in public, maybe public transport's too much, that sort of thing. They just get rehomed to someone who needs a lovely dog.
And Glenys, can I ask you, do you think that perhaps with all the advances in technology, that perhaps technology will slowly start taking over the role of the hearing dog?
It's an interesting question. One of the people who my club gave a hearing dog to many years ago, Megan, she, during the course of the time that she had Jonesy, got 2 cochlear implants. And I thought to myself, I wonder what's going to happen. But, of course, you forget that she takes them out at night. So immediately she removes them. She is profoundly deaf. And so she relied on Jonesy to alert her to sounds and, of course, in particular to the smoke alarm. And even now, though you might perhaps have a mobile phone under your pillow that vibrates and wakes you, the fact is technology can let you down. And therefore, as far as the key component of a hearing dog in the home, I believe, is to keep you safe, whereas a seeing eye dog keeps their owner safe outside. The hearing dog keeps you safe in your home. And therefore, you don't want to be relying on technology. You want to be able to rely on a hearing dog that will alert you to any danger in your home. So I think there's room for both. Megan's now got cochlear implants and her second hearing dog. So it's perfect, a perfect balance.
And Nick, what do you think about that? Do you think the dogs will ever be replaced?
I agree with everything that Glenys said. Yeah, I think there's definitely a place for the technological side of things, but there's nothing will replace having a dog there with you, especially when you're thinking about going out into public as well. A lot of people with who are deaf or hard of hearing, they might struggle with confidence getting back into the community because they can't keep up with conversations. They don't feel included. But having a hearing dog with you just brings you back out, and it just gives you all that confidence that you need, and nothing can replace that, I don't think.
There's something marvellous about the companionship of a dog, and lots of people who we've given dogs to have always been cat people or guinea pig people or other odds and sods. But the minute a dog becomes part of your life and your family, there is a magic that happens. And so the hearing dogs are very much part of the family, and as Nick said, part of your confidence and become part of your lifestyle.
I'd like to turn to the more personal now. And Nick, starting with you, could you give me a couple of highlights of your career so far?
So when we place a dog, I spend a week there with the recipient, teaching them how to use the dog and basically settling the dog in. So I always enjoy that part, getting to know the person and getting to see how the dog settles in and becomes part of their life. Also for me, I think at the end of the training, so after the 12 weeks of follow-up that we do, or even 6 weeks down the line, just seeing how much of a difference the dog has already made to someone's life. I think that's probably my favourite part. And you can even go a step further. I do the public access tests here in South Australia. So every 2 years, a hearing dog will need to just conduct their public access test for quality control, make sure there's no issues. So I do that every 2 years, and I get to see someone who's had a hearing dog for 2 years or even longer. I get to see how much of a difference that dog makes for that person. So that's really special for me.
Tell me, how did you get started as a hearing dog trainer?
So before working here, I worked at the Animal Welfare League in South Australia. So it's an animal welfare organisation. So I worked there for 4 years. So Lions Hearing Dogs staff would come in, they'd adopt dogs from us for the program. So I did know a little bit about the organisation. So then when a job opportunity came up, I dove straight in, and the rest is history. So,
and Glenys, some highlights from you. What's been the best and maybe even the worst of your experience?
I don't think there's been a worst. I've been fortunate in that nothing has gone wrong. Each time I've been part of a dog being delivered and trained or known that it was happening. It's just been joyous. And so the best part is always when someone, I'm getting very personal about it, but we had someone in our suburban club apply for a dog, and it took 2 years, 22 months actually for it to happen because of COVID. And when Chloe was finally delivered, Nick brought Chloe over and stayed nearby and spent the week with Kim, and then my club took over the follow-up training. And I'd have to say that's been a highlight because the COVID lockdowns were pretty grim, and waiting for this dear little dog to be delivered was just terrific. And then she was delivered. So that would be the highlight for me. There's really been nothing I could say that hasn't been a joy.
And I just, for both of you, your future plans, next 6 months, what's on your mind? What's on the horizon?
It's wonderful because we're out and about again. So I've got now bookings with a couple of community groups and with Lions clubs to get out and start promoting the project again. And if I can just go off the track a little bit, what a lot of people don't know is that the hearing dogs are given to the recipient free of charge, which is enormously important as far as availability is concerned. And that cost is covered by the organisation and by the local Lions Club involved. And so that message is marvellous to spread around the community. So that's what I'll be doing for the next 6 months, and it's what I'll be doing as long as I can, because there is need for people to know about it. And funnily enough, there's just always someone who needs that help within everybody's network. So that's what I'll be doing for the next, for the future, I hope. And
you, Nick?
Yeah, so it's a little bit exciting here at the moment. We're in the process of planning a new development of the site that we're on. So that's going to sort of take place over the next sort of 5 years, I guess, in sort of stages. But hopefully the first stage of construction might take place, breaking ground in the next sort of 6 months to a year, hopefully. And basically once we can get the new development, the new building put up here, we'll be able to get out a lot more dogs into the community and cut down a long waiting list at the moment, it's over 2 years at the moment for waiting for a hearing dog, we want to cut that right down.
Megan, I've just sort of something else which probably Nick was about to say. There is a whole new world opening up also within the hearing dog world, and that is of the medical alert dogs. So there's now several of those in the process of being trained to be given, once again, free of charge to a person with type 1 diabetes. And the dogs are being trained to alert them to a change in their blood sugar levels. And, of course, that is absolutely life-saving. These dogs have been around a while, medical alert dogs, but never, ever, ever have they been available to a recipient at no cost. So once again, that's the support of the Lions organisation and the clubs that will provide a medical alert dog to some lucky person in the near future.
Nick, are you involved in the training of the medical alert dogs?
No, I'm only in the hearing side at the moment, but it is very, very cool to see this sort of program take shape. And so Laura's the program coordinator here, and she's doing a fantastic job with founding that. And just watch this space. It'll be awesome.
I'm really delighted to hear that at no cost, because it's really important that everybody has access to something that's so life-changing like a hearing dog or diabetes dog.
The major difference between any other charitable organisations, that one key factor, and that's what makes it particularly special.
And kind of it's what makes it a Lions project too, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I know there are in some cases there are assistance dogs where the owner or the recipient themselves have to fundraise for that dog, and if you put it in this case where you're asking someone who's deaf or hard of hearing to go out into the community and fundraise, that can be quite tough. So it's that's why we take absolute pleasure in making sure that they're free and accessible for everyone, basically.
Can you tell me a little bit about the staffing for the Australian Lions hearing dogs?
Yeah, so we've got 14 full-time staff here working at Australian Lions hearing dogs.
Glenys, can you tell us how somebody would actually apply for a hearing dog?
The project is promoted via word of mouth and via people like myself who are out and about in the community telling everyone about the hearing dog. So let's say, for example, you go to a Probus meeting and you hear me talk about a hearing dog and you're deaf or hard of hearing. So you can do several things. You can go straight to the Australian Lions hearing dog website and make contact that way, and then you will be sent an application form. And that'll give you all the guidelines of what a hearing dog needs to have in their home and whether you fill those guidelines. And they're quite simple things. You need to get tests from your audiologist to guarantee to say that you are in fact hard of hearing, and you need to get a medical certificate to say that you're well enough to manage a dog, that you've got to be able to walk the dog, get the dog to the vet, and you fill in great detail about your lifestyle, whether you want a large dog or a small dog or a fluffy dog or whatever your particular personal preference is included in the application form, which then gets sent to South Australia. So the application is reviewed, a little bit of time passes, and let's say, yes, you're successful. So you'll be notified that you are going to receive a hearing dog, and then the process begins. So it's two parts. The Lions Club, which is nearest to where you live, is immediately notified because that will be your sponsor club. They'll be the people who'll do two things. They'll actually pay for the dog on your behalf once it's delivered, and they'll also be a part of a 3-month training program to help you settle in after the dog has been delivered. And then what's happening in South Australia is the search begins for your dog, the dog that fits your preference. And in the passing of time, there'll be a dog that will be found and you'll be notified, we found this dog, its name is Chloe, what do you think? So I don't know how many people ever say no, but basically, Nick would know whether anyone ever says no, but basically you say, yes, thank you. Yes, please, that would be lovely. While that's going on, the Lions Club, who are sponsoring you, probably running a couple of barbecues at Bunnings to raise the $2,000 for the dog. And then it all comes together in that lovely moment when the dog is delivered by Nick. The Lions Club come and meet Nick and the dog, and then we fall into that 3-month training program, after which the dog is reassessed and it becomes the property of that very happy recipient. So there's kind of a whole lot of nice things going on there. The clubs are involved with the project. The dog's got an immediate network, and so there's the happy ending to how you get a hearing dog.
And just a question, Glenys, how's that shortfall covered? It's 38,000 to train, but the clubs only contribute to.
That is very much part of the running cost of the Australian Lions hearing dog. That they fundraise, they have benefactors. I mean, Nick would know more than I do about how the day-to-day running is financed, but all that each club has to do is actually pay $2,000 and then on the delivery of the dog. The rest of the money is part of the ongoing cost of running the Australian hearing dogs.
Yeah, and I must say our club has just finished a hearing dog project and every member is raving. It is just such a worthwhile project for a club to do. It's as you said, it's absolutely joyous.
You've got our Megan.
Yes, we do.
My club, Carnegie, sponsored her first dog, Jonesy.
Yeah, yes, and
so it's lovely.
And we were involved with the magnificent George.
George the Magnificent is correct. He's got his own Instagram page. If anyone looks up Instagram, he's a star.
I have to look that up. I didn't know he had his own Instagram page.
Yeah.
I want to say on a very sentimental level, it's a very emotional project. Nick's very businesslike, but the fact is he loves dogs, he loves the project, and at a club level and at a district level, it's almost unbeatable as far as a project for the community to see happening. It's very engaging, which is of course is a joy. And
now for the medical dogs, are applications open? Can clubs? Is it any different from a hearing dog?
I believe they are open. Do you know whether? I think one of the dogs is quite close to delivery.
I'll have to double check on that part, but if they're not open now, they're very close, I think, to being. Yeah, it's. There is at least a waiting list, I think, of interest, because there's a massive amount of interest and need for it. So whether or not they're open at the moment, I'll have to double check. But it's a fantastic project.
I do know that the little dog, its name is Sal, and I believe she's going to be delivered to a recipient quite close by to the Hearing Dog Centre, so that follow-up can be managed carefully and thoughtfully, as she'll be the first dog to be delivered.
Yeah, so she'll be locally. So a lot closer and easier to work. Yeah.
Is there any ongoing support for the recipients after the dog is delivered?
Yeah, so there's always ongoing support in terms of follow-up and training, advice if they need. If there's any issues that are popping up, they've always got their trainer to fall back on to contact. In terms of the financial side of things, the organisation will cover the $37,000 for the dog, but unfortunately The only cost that the recipient do need to pay for is just the upcoming medical bills, that sort of thing. So the vet and just the food and that sort of thing. But the cost of the dog is covered by our organisation.
Do you help the recipients at all with if they get unexpected medical expenses?
Oh, yes. So we chartered a club back in 2019. So I'm a Lion now. What we do is if there is a serious medical issue there and the recipient's having a hard time paying for it, we'll meet as a Lions Club and, we'll see if we can fundraise for this dog. And if the recipient was having a hard time financially basically paying for it, we can step in and provide a bit more help there too.
Well, that's wonderful. And maybe that's something other Lions Clubs can think about, because the medical costs for animals are astronomical. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. Yep.
Probably we didn't touch, it's not huge because it only applies really in South Australia, but there's a whole new puppy sponsoring program that's now in place. With the advent of getting puppies from kennels, they're very little, rather than getting a fully mature dog from a shelter or a pound. So the kennels, once the puppies are born, they are then allocated to a fostering family, and that puppy lives with that family, and they learn socialising and they learn, how to be part of a family.
Yeah, so they're in the foster care home from say 8 weeks to all the way up to 10 months, and then they come in at 10 months ready to rock and roll.
But it gives people and businesses and Lions Clubs a way of being part of the hearing dog while they're hopefully waiting to actually sponsor one. The sponsorship program means that you or I or a Lions Club or any business can actually sponsor a dog during the whole of its training. And then, of course, you get to know it very well. You can name the dog and you are very engaged with how the dog is growing and developing and being trained. For example, a local Lions Club here, Sandringham, has just sponsored a puppy, and it happens to be a real estate company, so they've named the puppy Belle. And so Belle will be part of their quite modest but nevertheless clever advertising campaign in the suburbs to say that they've embraced the concept of sponsoring a hearing dog. So the club and that business company will be very much a part of that puppy's life right up to its growth and development and right through training. And it costs you $3,000 to sponsor a puppy. So it's quite an appealing prospect to businesses and to clubs, and I believe it's very well in demand at the moment.
So that's something for all clubs to remember. There's another avenue of sponsoring, not just placement.
And businesses in particular.
Yeah, clubs, businesses, individuals.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thanks, Glenys. I didn't even know about that. And then it'll get published on YouTube, and it goes out to Spotify and Apple Music, I think it is, and a couple of other podcatchers, so you can listen audio only or you can watch it on YouTube. Thank you so very much for your time this morning.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Megan.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.